How's it going, guys? It's your boy, Lieutenant Dan here, live from Orlando, Florida. We're going to do some quick options here because I seem to have lost my face cam due to whatever reason that may be. I guess it just has to be restarted every time. Deactivate and then activate. Nice. Okay, cool. Fantastic. How's it going, everybody? Rise up, stay grounded to everybody that's just joining the chat now and just getting in here, and we'll have everything, flowing and going in just a minute. And we have some announcements to make and some things that we've got to kind of get started. So please make sure that you guys come in here, like, subscribe, comment, all those good things before we get started. It's going to be an interesting stream, so you guys stick around with me and just prepare for some silly talk, some thought-provoking questions and ideals. But make sure you guys share this out to your friends and family. Send it out to the Twitter, the Reddit, the Falcons forums, the Facebook groups, the Twitters, wherever you end up sending this off, the Discords. Just tell everybody that's out there that we're live, we're ready to go, and we're gonna talk some Desmond Ridder, man. It's time to talk Desmond Ridder and talk about the state of the Falcons here in the first quarter of the year. In fact, actually, this game against the Houston Texans on Sunday is going to be probably the proving grounds. This will be the proving grounds for a guy like Desmond Ridder and for Arthur Smith and company, and we will definitely get to that in just a moment. Christopher Sanders, good to see my man. Ryan Watkins, good to see. Rise Up, Stay Grounded, one of our members here. If you would like to support the channel monetarily, month by month, we have a membership program there. We have a ton of cool benefits and things like that. I'm starting to work on how to get that in every single video that we do. We missed our video this week, so we're going to try to do some shorts when we have a moment, especially after the game of the Jags game, and then I'll try to get on to this Houston Texans game and have some content on that as well. So we're a little backed up on some content, but of course that'll be out for you guys sooner than later. But thank you guys for coming through. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, go into the live chat here. If you're seeing this afterwards, please tell me what you think of all the topics that we discussed here today. I'd love to hear your comments. There's a lot to talk about today, so I definitely want to get into it. The Matthew 427, good to see you, my man. Rise up, stay grounded. What's up, Lieutenant Dan? Rise up, Falcons Nation. Yeah, absolutely. Rise up, stay grounded. Hope you're doing well. I know usually everybody gets in a little late because the notification goes across their screen and they go, oh, I haven't seen Dan in a minute, and he hasn't been doing as many videos and things like that, and life happens, and you gotta pick and choose your battles. So the best that I can do right now is backlog some videos and then put out what I can. David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett video coming out real soon, another Ridder video, and of course we're going to have some shorts of just some things that I like, Jeff Okudah being out there and things of that nature. But it's time to finally have the Ridder discussion, and I think we've been hyping up the Ridder talking points, and we've had some videos on his week-to-week basis, the good throws, the bad throws, the ugly things that he's done, things that he's having to work on week to week, the system, how it's running, and so forth and so on. But I want to start this conversation out with, I have been looking at the 2024 QB class and where the Falcons currently sit right now from a mock draft standpoint, just draft position. And it doesn't really mean anything now because you start to see the tail of where teams are about 8 to 9 games in, knowing that that's kind of like the halfway point. But when you look at the Atlanta Falcons right now, they're still in the quote-unquote fringe playoff group, so we won't know really much until later down the road. Griffin, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Hey, Dan, rise up all. Hope you're all doing well. Anybody in the chat right now who has not already said hi, please make sure you do. I'd love to say hi back. I don't want to leave anybody out. All the grounders are welcome, and please make sure you share this out down below. The share button there. Share it out to all your friends and family. Hit it up in the Twitter, because we're about to go in on this Desmond Ridder discussion and just some options in 2024 that I'm gonna start kind of going through. But last night on the Twitch, and make sure you go follow us, twitch.tv/gamingwith_LTDan. Last night we were playing some Apex Legends, and we decided let's just cut the Apex Legends off and let's go watch the film on the top guys from the 2024 QB class. And the first one that I ended up watching, I think, was Drake May. And then we watched Bo Nix from Oregon. So we watched the North Carolina kid. We watched Bo Nix. I didn't even turn on Caleb Williams tape. I know that we're not the worst team in the league, and we will never be at that spot to take that selection. But, Caleb Williams, obviously, very much like a Pat Mahomes-esque player. Does a lot of weird things that I feel like Kyler Murray also does. So I'm not going to get into that too much. But we ended to watch Drake May and Bo Nix, and I watched the Washington State kid, and we watched the Florida State kid, and then Jordan Travis. And then we ended up putting on... And if you follow me on Twitter right now, then you understand exactly the predicament that I'm currently in. But then we ended up turning on Washington tape. And if we have any Washington Husky fans in the chat, please make yourself known. But if we have any Michael Penix Jr. Fans in the chat right now, please give me a rise up or give me a hello or a salute or something, hand raise or whatever it may be. Identify yourself in the chat if you're a Michael Penix fan. But I ended up watching Michael Penix last, and I had already seen some Michael Penix Jr. I'm aware of his 2 times same ACL, right ACL injury. Twice. I understand his transfer from, I believe it was Indiana, to Washington. And I understand that the hype around him right now is probably late first, early second round style of quarterback right now. He is not a massive runner, although he does have some wheels. But he is the type of guy that will sling it. And, that's here nor there. So we watched some Drake May. We watched Michael Penix Jr. We watched Bo Nix. We watched Jordan Travis. We watched a bunch of the Washington State kid. Somebody in my chat, I think, even tried to make me watch Spencer Rattler. I'm not going to get into that. But those of you that were on the Twitch stream last night had me watching a couple of these quarterbacks. And it got me thinking about the current situation in Atlanta and just, where the Falcons are going to draft and what the priorities are and things like that. Archangel, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Kareem Henderson, what's going on, my dude? Rise up, stay grounded. Hope you're doing well. Shocking to all of y'all. So I ended up watching these guys, and then I got into this whole thought process behind the scenes, like in my brain, not talking to you guys, not saying it live. But I started to have just this kind of discussion in my head, and discussion as well as just looking at draft position, where the Falcons have needs, and what's currently going on with their QB situation. And it had me reevaluate the Ridder tape from 2021. And I went back and I looked at Desmond Ridder from 2021. And I said to myself, that's not the same guy that's currently playing in Atlanta. And then I asked the question to myself, why? Why is this Desmond Ridder worse than the Desmond Ridder that I saw, or I was seeing play in 2021, not from just his highlights, but just how he was playing the whole year, like whole game misses and hits. And the discussion in my brain started to go as, Well, I don't want to make any excuses for Desmond, but this system is not the same. First of all, what Arthur Smith is running is multiple tight end, the least amount of wide receivers that you can possibly put on the field, multiple running backs, small ball that pretends that it wants to go long, and is utilizing the wrong athletes to make this work. So that was the initial thought process. And I immediately had a Falcons fan moment, whereas, well, Dan, you can't say that because if Desmond Ridder was better at just checking down and finding the passes that need to be done, then Arthur Smith wouldn't look so bad and we wouldn't be talking about excuses for Desmond Ridder. And, oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yes, I did. Yes. I try not to point it at me specifically because it gets cool in here anyway, but yeah, actually, that's pretty nice. Thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, please say hi to Mrs. Lieutenant Dan. She brought me coffee and she brought me the water and she brought me the coffee. So we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be fine. So I started to say to myself, well, I'm not going to make the excuses because then I sound like a pro Ridder guy and, give him a chance, give him more time, and those are all good things. Those are all good things, especially if you were a first-round talent or any quarterback specifically. I don't care what round you're taking, but any quarterback specifically that had shown a great talent level in college and had an investment in you, whether that be you invested a bunch of picks in the first or second round around this guy or you went out and spent a lot of money to make it work. But I started thinking about, you can't make that excuse for Desmond Ridder, and you can't, you can't make excuses for Desmond Ridder, but the excuses that people are saying can't be made are the same excuses that a fan would use for a first-round quarterback who's struggling. Especially a guy that has been sat down and then takes over the mantle the next year. And we don't usually see that a lot. A lot of the time now it's you start, you see what you're worth, and then you either turn out like Justin Fields or Desmond Ridder, or you end up turning into Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, things like that. Even with struggles, you end up turning into a better quarterback. And that's fine and dandy. But that means that you went full investment on that player. So I watched Desmond Ridder, and I tried not to come up with just excuses. But the more I looked at the system that he wasn't in Cincinnati, and then turned and looked at the system that Arthur Smith is utilizing, and then started looking at the layers of issues that are going on. Players that aren't healthy in a scheme that's not friendly to them. Players that are second level or third level doing better than your first rounded drafted talent. Running backs that are now in a one-dimensional offense that are still making plays, but the offensive line can't pass block. And then going back and watching Desmond Ridder in 2021, and yes, I understand it's college, but then watching Desmond Ridder do well in college with pressure in his face, and again, I get it. It's Cincinnati, and whoever Cincinnati ended up playing, they were able to block them up until they met some of the bigger, more, established teams like Georgia and so on and so forth, that were able to hold their own and keep a clean pocket for Desmond Ridder. And multiple times I heard in his, whether it be highlight tapes or just be game to game, Desmond Ridder with time, and then he throws a 30-yard bomb touchdown. And you want to call that not a bomb? Fine. You want me to be technical about it? A 30-yard mid-range to long-range pass that turned into a touchdown to a tight end or a speedy wide receiver. And I look at all of those factors and go, so you don't want him to play in shotgun. You want him to play under center. That's already a red flag. But Dan, all NFL quarterbacks need to learn how to play under center. I understand that, but Philadelphia plays the most shotgun and still makes their running backs work in Philadelphia playing out of shotgun. So I'm very confused why that is even a factor. So you don't have the protection. You're not playing a system that's friendly to Desmond Ridder because you're saying, Desmond Ridder, you conform to this. If you can't, you're a bad quarterback, which just doesn't make any sense to me. You hire an employee, you tell them you have to do it this specific way. You don't look for an avenue where they're good, and then you go, bust, fired, go on to the next one, and you go through 30 employees like that, you turn into the Browns. Not that the Browns were very good at assessing talent, so let's just make sure that that layer of discussion is also laid out for everyone. But all the factors are against Desmond Ridder. A third-round pick that you haven't really invested in, although you say that is your starter. A quarterback that can make a lot of the good throws, and you see some of the vibrant talent ability that he has, and yet now that he's sat behind Mariota for an entire year, which, by the way, was a waste. It was a waste. It just is. That's now truth and facts. That it was a waste of time for Desmond Ridder not to start the moment that Mariota started looking bad, which was not even midway through the year. There should have been a change. So I watched all of 2021, and I see a system that's not friendly to your quarterback, an investment that isn't really tangible because you're really not holding on to Desmond like that. So you're leaving a door constantly open behind Ridder's back that won't close until he just starts dominating teams. A line that can't pass block, and you invested in guys that you must not have been able to upgrade the position or use draft picks on the position because there were other needs, other things that needed to be developed before people left, and you don't have a good pass blocking line. It's just the truth. Matthews doesn't look like himself. McGarry doesn't. McGarry's always been mid. You paid a lot of money to Lindstrom. You drafted a second round, potentially first round offensive guard at left guard, Bergeron, and you have Dahlman, who's probably mid at best. At best, that's the truth. And people are talking about this offensive line being so amazing and so great. That's more wishful thinking, not even hope. That's wishful thinking, especially with everything stacked against it. Once you start running, teams know that you're going to run because you're a really good run blocking team. And that's perfect. That's fine, except for you're so one-dimensional in that it really takes away from what makes you special. You can't rely on Bijan Robinson to do everything. He'll get hurt doing that. Same thing with Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier works well as a thunder lightning complement to when you pass the ball. That's the truth. So any narrative that speaks contrary to what I just spoke about, which is you didn't invest in Desmond Ridder, that's the truth. You just picked him up in the third round, and you're not expecting a lot out of him, even though you're saying he's the starter because you don't want to pull Heineke in there unless it's absolutely necessary. And you feel like he's developing and getting these lumps and bumps out early and hoping that mid-year he starts showing you something positive. If not, Heineke starts. That's just the truth. But because you didn't invest much in him, and because this offensive line is literally makeshift pieces of your design because you couldn't find upgrades to it, and you brought guys back in just because I trust them to do enough to make it work, instead of going, that's not good enough, I need to put more money and more operations into this. Yes, I paid Matthew. Yes, I paid Lindstrom, but Lindstrom has to stay here. We need that to be here. And Matthews just got money because we wanted to make sure that we can kind of maneuver around this. We can't just not have a left tackle. And we invested a second-round pick in Bergeron because he was going to get scooped up in the first round if it wasn't for the fact that we, other guys jumped people and we were able to select him. So all of those things being said. So you didn't invest a lot. You didn't create a very good offensive line, technically. And then you have passing concepts that all of the YouTubers and all of the real, analysts and guys that break down this type of film are saying they don't understand the concepts. Like, they're professionals, former players, former athletes, former quarterbacks, guys breaking down the all-22 and saying, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense at all. This doesn't make any sense at all. Why are guys running the same routes? Why are guys not doing pick plays? Why are guys not doing the extra little things here? What kind of coaching is telling them that they can be lax? Are these guys not healthy? We obviously know that Kyle Pitts isn't. And why are guys like Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt doing a better job than your first-round tight end that you took number 4 overall? So you put all of those things into consideration, right? And then you take the style of how you play, and it doesn't really help Ritter. It just tells you that this is the style, and Ritter, you have to conform to it. This is a recipe for a mid-level team at best, because you set the standard to be mid-level. You set the standard to say that, well, Ritter's our option and Heineke's the backup, and they kind of are not the same, but they're going to make a lot of mistakes. Both quarterbacks are. Heinicke was a turnover machine last year, and Desmond Ritter up to this point has shown 50-50 level of play, 60-40 if you want to be negative. And so all of those layers, and Drake London not performing at a high level, but Mac Hollins performing better, that's a problem. Not a lot of speedy wide receivers, which Desmond Ritter had some fast dudes at Cincinnati. You take all of those things away, and you end up going, wow, Kyle Pitts is not healthy. Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt are doing better than Kyle. Kyle needs the rest, but he can't get any reps with Ritter, and Ritter can't hit him because he doesn't have any time to be able to throw the ball, because these long, drawn-out concepts where guys aren't doing 100% of the work are a double detriment, because they're not doing the work, and you made a concept that just runs into guys, right? There's no separation from Kyle Pitts from the DB types or the linebackers. There isn't separation. Go look at all the stuff that's going on with Kyle Pitts right now, Twitter, YouTube, and the breakdown is there's no separation. So even if Desmond Ritter gets this ball perfectly where it needs to be, it's just not going to be a positive. It's going to be either it's caught and it looks bad, or it's badly thrown to that spot because of the other layer, which is Desmond Ritter doesn't have any time to throw. When he does have time to throw, he's blatantly missing things because guys are not running their routes right, and Desmond Ritter is starting to break under this pressure. That's the truth. So you look at the whole thing, and it just smells. It smells of a disaster from a coaching perspective, because you set this up to be very athletically driven and very much, this is how I'm going to do things. Doesn't mean that Ritter's not at fault. Just means that Ritter can't outperform the mistakes of the system, the mistakes of the players that are performing around him. And you supposedly got all this talent together, and yet this talent really looks plain Jane normal. This looks like a very normal mid-level team who has a very, very easy record that they can make out of this, and a very easy schedule that they can apply that record to, and yet they're not going to get to that point. They're not going to get to a winning ways because this is what they're running. Teams are literally making fun of them because they're just not a team that really looks like they want to throw. They're really not doing the strengths of the quarterback that's currently back there, regardless of what you think his strengths and weaknesses are. So it got me thinking, if Desmond Ritter does poorly for the next couple of weeks, and then Heinicke comes in and doesn't really do much better, what will the reaction be? Now, hold up. I want to, before anybody jumps to anything in the chat, starts going, well, we haven't even seen Heinicke. I saw Heinicke last year play for the Washington Commanders, I guess, the Washington football team, whatever they're called. And I can tell you right now that Heinicke will make some plays and we'll all be woo-wee. Just like when Desmond Ritter makes a couple of plays and we're all like, woo-wee. But Heineke will also continue to turn the ball over as well, because this offensive line will not do Heineke favors. That's the truth. So I feel bad for Heineke, because even if he was a better option, and he probably is at this point, it's not going to win you games. It's going to still be bad. It's something that you have yet to see that we already have seen on another team. Well, you haven't seen this version. It doesn't matter if it's this version or that version. A quarterback is a quarterback is a quarterback, like a duck is a duck is a duck. That just is what it is. If it quacks and walks and smells like a duck and looks like a duck, then it is a duck. It just is. If all factors in looking at a particular quarterback say that quarterback can change his ways because he has potential, but all the other things around him are pretty up in the air about whether they work or not, then that's an issue as a whole from a team, and it only makes Desmond Ridder being in there worse, right? Because you can't develop him properly. You should have been developing him last year. That's on Coach Smith. That's on Terry Fontenot. That has nothing to do with Ridder. Then you put Ridder in the situation, he goes 50-50 over 4 games, and then comes in and now has played, 4 games in, 5 games tomorrow, and you're really just not looking at any improvement because nothing else around that team has improved. Yes, you maybe put some players here and you have a first rounder and you did this and that and the third, but at the end of the day, it just didn't really heighten. You got this great running back. It's great to have a fantastic running back. It's great to have a generational talent, but if you keep trying to rely on only that generational talent to do what it's doing while everything else is really just, it's a mess. It's a mess. If somebody not cleaning their bathroom and the toilet bowl ring looks really disgusting and got mildew and mold and there's vomit everywhere, it doesn't look good. So what's the answer to making it better? What's the answer to saying, okay, guys, we're going to fix this and we're going to get this right? Is that with Arthur Smith? Is that just Ridder outperforming the deficiencies of everything else and finding a way to make it work? Because that's not good for your quarterback either. That means that then by year 3, they're adjusting from bad and trying to overcome it to trying to normalize their play style and not be constantly jittery or shaky or have to overcome bad stuff because they're now everything is normalized. Now everything is okay because you've added enough talent around that, or you have fixed your system so that it runs properly. So you can fault Coach Smith here for bad passing concepts because there shouldn't be 3 guys running a similar routes on levels going to the right and then one guy just streaking up, and Ridder's option is dunk it underneath for 2 yards or go over the top and either miss this ball or get interceptions because the offensive line is not holding their part. That's problems on multiple layers, on multiple levels, regardless of what talent you added. That's the truth. So I looked at quarterbacks for 2024, and I said, well, can any of these quarterbacks here, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jordan Travis, Michael Penix Jr., name a quarterback, any quarterback, and a lot of them that I do like. But name any of those quarterbacks and they're going to make this better. And it's not none of those quarterbacks will make it better. It's more along the lines of any of those quarterbacks will come in here and have the same deficiencies and problems scrambling around and trying to make it work with an offense that's just very one-dimensional and it's just not built well. It's just not. Kyle Pitts being here isn't benefiting the Falcons. It's more of a detriment that he can't create separation and that he's obviously got a problem, an issue, medical or otherwise. Doesn't trust his leg, whatever it may be. He's not creating separation from Jags defenders. He's not creating separation from Lions defenders. He's not creating separation from Panthers defenders. And his best route in all games, in multiple games, by the way, go check it. Call me, criticize me and call me a fraud if you want to, but go check it out yourself. I want you to do the research. You go look at it. I'll provide whatever I can, but go look at it. His best route has been a crosser from the right to left. I don't understand that. A 15-yard, 20-yard crosser from right to left where he doesn't create any yards after catch. He just gets hit right in the chest and falls down wherever he caught the ball. That's actually been the thing that Kyle Pitts is now starting to get known for, which is catch the ball, go down. Catch the ball, go down. Catch the ball, no yards after catch, go down. Is that the passes he's receiving? No, not really. There's a lot of different passes he's being thrown at from. There's a lot of different styles of passes that are coming his way. But they just can't seem to make it work. So then, after last night, going through all of these different tapes from just the current college games that we have, looking at the Falcons' mock draft status right now, which we're not even halfway through, so I don't really know where we're going to be. Looking at Desmond Ritter's status, and we've got a game against Houston coming up tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's gonna be. I hope it's fun. I hope that I see Desmond Ridder improvement. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to be bad. I don't want any quarterback to be bad for Atlanta. I didn't want Vic to be bad. I didn't want Ryan to be bad. I don't want Ridder to be bad. I don't want Henneke to be bad. Look, man, I didn't want Mariota to be bad. I didn't want Chris Chandler to be bad. I didn't want Leftwich to be bad. I don't want anybody to be bad on my team. I want my team to be winners. I want my team to succeed. I don't want to call anybody trash because they aren't. They aren't trash. It's either the system works or it doesn't. You know? But looking at the whole, looking at the picture for what it's worth, I'm going to tell you something that you guys are not going to like, that I came to a conclusion to yesterday that I feel like is justified in saying. That I think the Falcons should be sellers on Kyle Pitts by the trade deadline. Go ahead, get your stones, get your pitchforks, get your flames. Stop watching the podcast right now. Dislike, comment below that Dan's a fraud. Whatever. That's fine. You have not received the production, especially after injury, that you would like to see, regardless of the QB. And don't bring up the Matt Ryan stuff because that's a potential future Hall of Fame quarterback who was looking at Kyle Pitts as an outlet and an option to destroy teams, and he did so. Touchdown, 1,000 yards. Pitts looked awesome. We were very excited. Year 2, year 3, we just haven't seen that production. And the offensive line hasn't helped that. Pitts has not run his routes well. The concepts are not good, and I'd like to see a different concept or a different system for Kyle Pitts. I really would, because I would like to see what Kyle Pitts can do if we're moving him around and we're putting him in different spots and different places and making him one of the 1-2 options that we're trying to throw to. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Matt Collins, trying to hit these guys, Jonnu Smith, trying to hit these guys. But I think the Falcons should be sellers at this point. If the team's doing poorly, I think they should try to find a place for Pitts and get compensation back, knowing that this isn't going to get better unless we systematically change, and we can't waste time trying to drag Pitts with us to make it work. It doesn't work out that way, because by the time you make it work, by the time the system is structurally sound, by the time you finally figured yourself out, Pitts has to be paid, and then what are you paying him? You know, that's the real question. That's a real question, like an employer to an employee. How do you pay someone that you yourself made it hard for that player, and now that player currently, or that employee currently, is asking for money? And you've got other options and other things that you have to fix and you've got to put together. I'm not saying you can't pay Pitts. I'm saying that now you have to justify paying Pitts over other portions of the team that are going to get better. So now you have a question to ask. Ask yourself. I'm not saying get rid of Pitts. I'm saying if this team is bad, you might want to entertain the idea of finding a trade partner for Kyle Pitts. I don't know what you're going to get from it. Maybe a third rounder at best based on the current contingency. Maybe you can finesse a second, you know? But I'm pretty sure at this point, Kyle Pitts is not justified being the number 4 overall pick. Other than the fact that he was selected at 4, I don't see anybody with any evidence that Kyle Pitts has improved or gotten better. He's come off an injury. He's played poorly in this system. He's played poorly because of 2 poor quarterbacks. We know Matt Ryan utilized him to a better degree. But we're talking 2 years removed now. So you're going to see Heineke at the end of the year if Ritter is not doing well. That's just a fact, and I'm okay with that. You're going to see the Falcons probably be buy and sell mode by the trade deadline. They opened money up, okay? They opened money up. We didn't ask for that. They opened money up with the Matthews stuff. So there's something going on, obviously, and you guys know that, and I know that, so we've got to think on that. What does that entail, right? I look at this group, and I go, there's not a lot to sell, and there's not a lot to move, and there's not a lot that we want to specifically, like, I don't want to see Kyle Pitts go, but if you're not operating at that level, then you need to really reassess what the system is doing and how you're using your players, especially if Jonnu Smith and Micole Pruitt are out there outperforming Kyle Pitts. That's a problem, and you guys see it on the tape. They're the ones actually making plays. Kyle Pitts, just whatever it is, the connectivity between Ritter and Pitts and the system and the want and drive to make these plays work because of your injury, and I understand. I take that into account. It's just not translating. It's not working, right? So we can, again, I keep saying, the system is the biggest problem. And that also now makes the offensive line a problem because the system and the offensive line are symbiotic relationships. It's created a one-dimensional offense that teams know we want to run and know we only want to run and are going to stack the box against it. And they know that they can get to the quarterback when they stack the box so they can stop the run and stop the pass because Desmond Ritter, under pressure, this offensive line cannot hold it no matter how many tight ends or guys you put back there to block it. And our pass catchers, because of the lack of actual play design from a passing game standpoint, don't create separation and these balls get batted or they get overthrown or they get underthrown because there's either too much pressure or the play design doesn't work because of pressure. So you've got a problem, an internal problem, a nucleus problem, that this offensive line can't make the system work because the system is flawed. And that makes Desmond Ritter flawed by association. Ritter can't overcome the system because the system is so flawed that it makes your offensive line flawed. Because you built the offensive line from a poor group of players and paid guys that you just had to pay. That's the truth. There's no narrative to that. You've created a list of problems because you didn't follow the steps correctly to make this work. You can have dynamic running all you want, but that won't win you the game, nor will it take you to the Super Bowl or win you the division. It just won't. I'm sorry. That doesn't work. However, if this trend continues, Arthur Blank will fire Arthur Smith and maybe keep Terry Fontenot just because of the team has gotten better technically than what it originally was when it was stagnant. Now it's a stagnant mid-level team. It was a stagnant, we lose in the worst situations. Like, we really need to win this game, we lose terribly. You know? That was 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. That was that stretch of years. It was bad. It was really bad. It was as a letdown every Sunday, Thursday, and Monday, and Saturday, give or take. So how do you fix this problem? Well, I'm not a genius. And I only have opinions and thought processes based on what I can see, and I am not an expert. But I will come to you and I will tell you as a fan that's been watching since 1998. The game has evolved. It's changed. I watch college. I watch NFL. I watch the Spring League. And I can tell you right now, based on where the Falcons currently are building things and how they've missed on some of the stuff that they obviously wanted to do. They obviously wanted to go after Trey Lance. They picked Pitts as a conversion because they knew that they were going to have to get rid of Julio Jones. So they brought him in. It's not the same position and it's not the same level of talent. Julio goes, Pitts comes in. I mean, we know the history. You torched the Matt Ryan situation because you knew he was at the end of his road. You wanted to tell him happy trails, but you knew he could still play a little bit. He wasn't part of the full plan going forward, and you botched that. You had interest in Deshaun Watson and immediately made sure that everybody knew that you were not interested in Lamar Jackson because you knew that those two players correlated. That's fine. I get that. Everybody else gets that. Okay? We're not stupid. But when you look at the whole, you go, I would not be surprised if we lost by 30 points on Sunday to Houston. And then we wouldn't be soul searching anymore. We'd be head coach searching. Because it's probably in our best interest to probably fire Arthur Smith at that point, bench Desmond Ridder, put Heineke out there and say, we're just going to roll with a little something different. We really need to shake this up, and we don't need to be 5 games into the season, 6 games into the season, and have had this string of losses and know that this is going to be mid. This is going to be mid-level. Our defense is going to continue to carry, but look, you're going to wear these guys out, and injuries will creep up eventually. So if things get better on Sunday, I guess you just move on to the next week with Desmond Ridder and you hope for the best. But if things get worse on Sunday and we look just really inept, especially with any injuries or anything like that, then it might be time to pivot and start thinking, we still want to be competitive, so we're going to put Heineke out there and just see if there's a change, right? But we know for certain that what we saw with the Commanders is probably what we're going to be getting. So we understand that there will be bad throws. I want the Falcons personally to be ready to potentially sell at the trade deadline. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, maybe 7. Yes, that is just a line. But probably more than 2 players, and send those guys out to other teams and begin to start processing picks and condense the situation in Atlanta so it's not, we've got to get the ball to Kyle Pitts because he's a first rounder. We've got to get the ball to Drake London because he's a first rounder. We got to get it to Bijan because he's a first rounder. We got to get it to Tyler Algier because he was a 1,000-yard running back. We've got to get it to Jonnu Smith because we traded for him. And instead, condense all of that and say, this is the group we have. These are the players that we have. And we just want to try to roll out and see if we can make something special happen. That's where I'm currently sitting. If you believe that to be the wrong choice or whatever, please just dislike the video, comment in the live chat and say you're wrong and you're terrible. That ain't it, Chief, and da-da-da. But you know in your hearts of hearts, and I know just from watching this tape and in my heart, that this will be a mid-level team if we keep playing this system. It's a bad system passing, and it's an okay system running. Don't try to fool me with running concepts that are not translating from last year that you're trying to make this work this year. And no one pass rusher or no one pass catcher or no one offensive lineman is suddenly going to change things. But I would use maybe some money to go get Tunsil. Maybe you make a few changes from the offensive line standpoint, maybe some veterans in there, and you say, we got to shore some things up, man. Things need to change. We've got to give Desmond Ridder or Tyler Heineke time because you're not getting it with this passing offense. It just isn't. And we need to pull our egos down and go get a passing coordinator. Maybe over the next 2 weeks, you still play Desmond Ridder, but you change up the passing concepts. You make it a little more like what they were doing in college. Maybe you move some guys around. Maybe you're less motion and coming out just straight up because you know what? Philly has the least amount of motion in the entire league and straight up dominates people. So maybe you don't have to be Shanahan or Daniels or one of these guys. And you just want to go out there and just line up and throw. Maybe that's healthy for Heineke and Ridder, for them to just line up and throw instead of having all this movement. You don't know. You have no idea what the options may open up for your quarterback and for your offensive line and what you're trying to do, but this definitely has to be upgraded. It has to be. Your offensive line has to be upgraded at right tackle and at center. Has to be. And maybe even left tackle. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's probably something that has to be done. I mean, I'm watching Desmond Ridder, man, and he's getting hit from the blind side, and I'm like, look, I like Matthews as much as the next guy, but something's not right. Something smells like a rat, like a fish. Something smells bad. Something bad is happening here. You know it. I know it. That's not a lie. So we look at this team and go, what can we do now to change this and move this forward? And I'm telling you right now, a rookie quarterback won't do that for you unless you're wiping the whole slate clean and starting with a new coaching staff. That's just the truth. Michael Penix Jr. isn't going to run for 1,000 yards on the ground and throw for 4,000. Neither is Caleb Williams. Neither is Drake May. But the guys that fit what you're trying to build here currently, I'm not talking about new quarterback, new coaching staff, new passing game coordinator, all those things. But the guys that are coming out this year do fit. If Shedeur Sanders comes out, if you have a bad enough record that you can go get Drake May, if you believe Michael Penix Jr. is that guy for you, there are options here in this draft. The kid from Duke, who just recently got injured, his ankle injury. The kid from Duke. All of those guys fit your short game passing into shots down the field, and all of them have a nice ball. I would say Drake May is probably not as good of a deep passer as Penix Jr., Shedeur Sanders. But if you want to take those options and you want to go after that, you need to change coaching staffs. You don't need to do the current system. But what you've built currently, all these players can do. I do like Drake May for his running. I do like Shedeur Sanders for his running. If you get an opportunity to get either one of those and Henneke and Ridder is not the guy and Smith's still here, I wouldn't be super upset if either one of those guys were the ones you drafted. But if you change up the system, I want Penix Jr. there. Shedeur Sanders looks fantastic. Drake May, selling the farm for Drake May and changing the entire identity of the team might not be the worst thing in the entire world. So I would look currently at where the Falcons are by the trade deadline. And then if we are not a good team, begin to sell, put Henneke in there, maybe sign an offensive lineman, see if that changes some things, flip-flop Ridder and Henneke until you find rhythm in that, and then decide next year if you want to wipe the slate clean of Arthur Smith or a demotion or hire a passing game coordinator and keep him or whatever it may be. But next year's first-round pick probably needs to be an elite defensive end. I'm straight with you guys. It needs to be one of two things. And that's dependent on if Henneke and Ridder can give you value. It needs to be either the next franchise quarterback from the first round, an elite defensive end, which I see a few guys there in this coming draft in 2024 that'll do that job for you. Or it needs to be an offensive lineman that shores up one of the places that you did not hire a veteran. And you're looking at somewhere around $86 million in cap space for the Atlanta Falcons next year before cuts. So the money will be there. The draft capital will be there, especially if the Jags pay Calvin Ridley. That's a second-round pick. Not a third, not a fourth, but a second-round pick. So if they give him a contract and he keeps playing, we get a second-round pick. We'll have a 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 next year. That's pretty good. That's a really solid draft class. You could get a lot out of that if you wanted to. But again, this group right now doesn't have the it, and you won't know what Ridder can do or Henneke. I'm not saying Henneke shouldn't play. I'm saying you won't know what either one of these guys will do based on Henneke's play from last year with Washington or Ridder's quarter year plus quarter, so what, half now, half year of play can do until you make adjustments. You have to make adjustments. So you need to go get an offensive lineman and probably upgrade right tackle and see what Caleb McGarry can do for you elsewhere on the lineup. I wouldn't put Bergeron at center, but maybe there's ample opportunity for that. I wouldn't put McGarry at left guard, but maybe you try to figure something out for that. Maybe McGarry becomes a backup. Maybe you trade McGarry. I don't know. I don't know what you do. But I can tell you right now that what this team currently holds is a whole litany of issues that are causing other parts of the team to be a bigger issue than they would be if you just had done the work and the due diligence and paid the money out to the right people. I understand what you inherited, and all Falcons fans here that are listening to this right now, as well as those who haven't listened to this, understand where the team is right now and why the team is here right now because of the choices that are made. But we're not stupid enough to go, well, that's fine. That's okay. We need to win games, or especially early on. Even if you lose games later, you can't lose so many games early on. It makes the fan base reject you, and it makes the fan base bitter. And the Falcons fan base has been very bitter for a very, very long time. That's the truth. We've been very bitter because we lost the Super Bowl with one of the best offenses that we've ever had. We've wasted a quarterback we took in 2008, a franchise guy, a guy that could pretty much do it all except for run. We wasted his time from 2008 to 2020. We did. Because we were so invested in catching up with the league instead of trying to do our own thing and make sure that the primary things that you need from this Falcons team are fixed. Offensive line, pass rusher, quarterbacks taken care of, good system with a good coaching staff that develops everything. It's not a lot to ask for, but there are quite a few things that I'm a little I don't know about doing this. Don't know about trying to make this work. Anywho. Roasting. Somebody put roast chicken in my Somebody put roast chicken as a roast for me. And again, I see what Rose Stackson's saying in the chat right now. We can't change the offense too much. We invested money and capital in the offense. He's been hitting his checklist on the defense since the offseason. The only thing we're missing is an edge. If the talent doesn't perform at the level that you paid it, then that investment is a bad investment, and you need to take your losses quickly instead of letting it linger. And people don't understand that because people are scared to let things go. And that's okay. If I had to sell Kyle Pitts for Chase Young, listen to me for a second. If I had to sell Kyle Pitts to gain Chase Young, I might do it. People call me crazy for that because you're putting Logan Thomas or whoever is there in Washington with Kyle Pitts. Maybe that change of scenery is good for Kyle. But if I get Chase Young and put him on the edge instead of having Bud Dupree or Leonard Floyd or whoever is out there, and put him on the edge with Ebiketie and Amiata and Grady in the middle, and then rotate my guys in and out. Zach Harrison looking pretty fire. Campbell. And rotate that group and let them cook in Atlanta. That defense will get sacks. But it won't fix the offensive issue. But I would do it. At the trade deadline, I would trade Kyle Pitts for Chase Young. If both teams are just meh. If the situation presented itself, I'd make that trade 1-for-1. And if they wanted draft picks, lower tier draft picks, and we traded some lower tier draft picks, they get a 5th, we get a 6th back, I'd do it. I'd still do it. if Ritter, by the end of the year, is looking above average at best, I would forego the QB class this year, especially if Shedeur Sanders ends up going next year. Not 2024, but 2025. I would forego this, and I would go into the first round, and I'd go find myself a good offensive lineman or an edge, or even a corner, by the by. And I would go line those guys up with what we currently have going on. Start Ritter again. I know if right now that doesn't sound great, but if Ritter by the end of the year is above average, like makes a good turn into, he's figuring it out and he's making the plays that he needs to make. He's checking down now, and he got yelled at by the coaching staff, and now he's not doing stupid things. We took away some of the deep shots from Pitts, and we started kind of implementing some other things. A passing game coordinator came in here, and they changed things up over 2 weeks, and Desmond Ritter's looking really good over an 8-week period. Then I would forego the QB thing, despite what Falcons fans want, and I'd go fill up the rest of the roster with some real talent. Go get yourself a real center. You've got 80. I know it's going to be like $70-something million before cuts and moves, and the TV deal hasn't even been set really. But if this cap flies up, we're going to have $80, almost $90 million in cap space before we really start paying or doing anything. And that's before cuts in our own roster. So you're talking close to $100 million if you really wanted to. And so the question becomes, what do you want to do? This offseason presents the turning point. It really does. It really, 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 really does. This offseason is the turning point for either a complete change of identity and an acquisition of talent that then take you in a different direction, or things have improved. So the first one is things did not improve and you completely changed the identity, or everything's working better than it was and confidence is higher than it was, and you go into the draft and free agency and go, you know what, we're going to spend some big bucks and we're going to go out here and go grab some guys. On paper, we're going to look scary. And then you start kind of putting the system together. Because Ryan Nielsen's not doing a bad job. I haven't said a bad word about Ryan Nielsen. You know, we're keeping teams close to only 20 points per game. Really haven't had a moment where it's just like, oh no, we got blown the heck out. Yeah, we didn't score a lot of points in the Jags game, but we still kept them pretty contained for what it's worth. For what it's worth. We even came away with sacks in that game. So I can't get upset with the defense. The defense just needs a premier Aiden Hutchinson level, Joey Bosa level pass rusher. We really need that guy. Like, wow, the dominant dude. It may take 2 years to develop that guy, but we need that guy. But otherwise, maybe some more DB types. I don't know about the Richie Grant situation or the Okuda situation or linebacker, but you could probably at all three levels pick out one or two guys and upgrade those positions, and this defense would be really tough. The defensive projection looks great. The offensive projection is just a clusterfuck of layers of issues that, because of this issue, it made 5 other issues, and those things would not be issues if you just fix this first. So I think you fix right tackle first, and then things start to get a lot better. I think you simplify the passing game and bring in a passing coordinator, somebody a little bit different, and things start to flourish and get better. And maybe people don't want Ritter to succeed, but if Ritter starts looking good over 2-3 games because you made the adjustments and paid some players to come in and perform, maybe you don't have to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback next year who, you know, look, I'm just going to be, you know, Michael Penix Jr. out there. He's got 2 injuries. Drake May makes some very weird, poor decisions sometimes. You know? Caleb Williams, you're not getting him unless you go to the number 1 pick, and he looks like Kyler Murray sometimes. I get a little worried about what he's doing. Not that he won't be a great talent. Roast Axon with the $5 donation, $4.99 in the chat. To be honest, I'm not helping Smith no more. He can make tweak to the offense, but if I'm Terry Fontenot, I'm finishing the defense until Smith is fired, get my head coach OC, and fix the O. You know, Ro, I'm with that, because if Smith does end up fixing things and he makes personnel changes and boom boom boom, then obviously you could just keep Smith, right? But then on top of that, you don't have to invest anything in the offense because you've been investing. I just still would end up selling Kyle Pitts by trade deadline or by the end of the year. You know? I'd send him to a team that's looking to make an impact difference. Because he's not Sam Laporta. He's not. That's just the truth. Send him to Miami. Miami's looks like they're trying to win a Super Bowl. Send Pitts to Miami. Get a second round or third round pick. The offense should make it work with what they have. But if you can't make it work and you invested this talent level, you need to step back and go, look, we got to cut our losses where our losses are. We didn't invest a lot into Ritter, so we don't need to worry about that. We can keep playing him or we can put Heineke in. Fine either way. But if the investment on return isn't there with Pitts and London's looking shaky because our offensive line isn't good, then we need to make investments in the offensive line, and I'm okay with that. Ryan Neeson may be the coach we actually need. Didn't take him long to get the defense right. Not the worst opinion in the world, actually. Ryan here is putting a really good point out. Really, seriously, that's the truth. Thank you for the dono, by the way. Times have been really, really tough, so I appreciate just even the $5. Times have been really, really tough around here. So I really appreciate you, man. My wife and I have been struggling a lot, so I appreciate you. It just doing the show or just doing the Twitch stuff or whatever, making the videos, making a little bit of money here or there. It's just been a lifesaver, and, you know, hey, man, the bank account's a bit dry, so I appreciate you. I don't want to get too sentimental and start crying and all that, but thank you. But if you just take it one step at a time and you look at the situations for what it is, Arthur Smith built this with Terry Fontenot, and it's obvious that Terry Fontenot is not the problem here, because if you draft talent high and they do have a very high ceiling and you're underutilizing them, you can't wait for that talent to develop and become something if everything's going to the shitter and you have to supply more to the offense to make it work. Systematically, it's not working, and it's making the players worse, and those players are obviously taking plays off and are not healthy, so it's not helping the situation. You created more problems just from one thing. So I would not be upset if Ryan Nielsen is the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons just so you don't lose him and you fire Arthur Smith and you go get yourself an OC. Would not be upset about that. The question is, who you hiring and what system are you going to run now? Because you got Bijan Robinson. He's real good. He's real good. The only person on offense right now that I would not get rid of is Bijan Robinson. Factoid. Call me crazy, but I would not. The only thing that is not bad about this offense is Bijan freaking Mustard Robinson. Guy's a freaking awesome player. I need my Bijan shirt, bro. Chat, help me get enough money together so I can get a Bijan jersey. I don't have any new jerseys. My last jersey, Takk McKinley. Last jersey, Takk McKinley. I feel terrible. I have a Matt Ryan jersey back there. I can't bring that out in public. I feel ashamed. That's my quarterback, though. I never stepped away from Matt Ryan. Never did. 3 years of AS, and we feel like we have 3 different OCs because we have 3 different quarterbacks. That's the truth. You had 3 different quarterbacks that had 3 different styles, and you ran your running offense based on their styles, and you almost ran Ryan into the ground because you couldn't protect him. Crazy. And then you couldn't protect Mariota, and he was already a bad quarterback, but you brought him in here so you could try to run with the quarterback. Crazy, that didn't work. And then you have Desmond Ridder in here, who is a shotgun, pistol, quick throw quarterback. 1 or 2 reads maximum right now based on what he's doing here, but not on what he was doing in Cincinnati because he could go through 3 or 4 different reads. And you're not playing that system here right now. You're having him under center, and it's not working. Crazy. Insane. Freaking insane. So, yeah, that's the, yeah, that's the, after watching those quarterbacks last night, all of this went through my head, and I was like, yeah, you've got to stick with Ridder. You've got to stick with Ridder, though. You don't have to move away from any schemes or stop running the ball that way, or you need to start incorporating different things. The college level has shown you that you can run wide zone by moving pieces around and still keep it pistol. You can still run play action off these things. Go look at Miami. They run similar things. And even Kyle Shanahan has gotten away from some of his wide zones concepts and still utilized that to great effect. Minimizing some of the stuff that you do doesn't mean getting away from it completely. But you need to start kind of changing the offensive scheme to complement your players that you have. Not the players need to complement your system. That never works. But then what's the point of having Arthur Smith around if he's only supplying the running game portion, and now you brought in an OC to do the passing game, and now you have heads clashing on what you want to do? I'd rather have Nielsen become the head coach, Terry Fontenot and Nielsen have a real idea of what they want to do to build the defense, and then make the necessary changes offensively with a coordinator, then try to salvage the whole thing because, I don't want to let go of Pitts in London and we spent all these first-round picks on these guys. Look, London's fine. I like him, but he's Mike Evans. Like a low-tier Mike Evans right now. Oh, no. And you got away from running Algier because then you brought in Bijan. And he's a fantastic running back. Nobody wants him gone or less touches, but if you're only feeding him, what's the point? You know? So, Rigatoni is going to be a sacrificial lamb to save Arthur Smith's job. But that's only if the offense suddenly gets a little bit better. They won't keep the same personnel if that's the case. But anyway, I digress. London is bad for a top 10 pick. I'm sorry. I think that London was a necessity pick because they had already run the wide receiver room dry. But building a basketball team, it can work, but you have to have a German-esque Weinstein build empire. This is exactly how we run it. I want everybody to run it 100% and do the extra work on top of it to make our run game the most powerful thing that we can do. And you guys run my system completely the way that I asked you to, and we'll get you the ball. That's how you make that work. But then you're not really looking at a quarterback that does dynamic things. You're looking at it's Arthur Smith who's the quarterback, and he's not calling good plays. That's the truth. Anywho, man. Jonathan Taylor is agreeing to an extension with the Colts. And so now all these other running backs are now going to end up getting paid, and that's cool. That's fine. Is what it is, right? Should have been Chase or Sewell over Pitts. In hindsight 2020, I guess. London's more of a wide receiver too. Yeah, well, then if you go with that narrative or conclusion, really, then you overpaid it, and so now you should probably not pay London when his fourth year or fifth year comes up. You just retract that, and you try to repay him at the end of the year to be that wide too. And again, it's just, who's the wide receiver one for Kansas City? It's Travis Kelce. He's a tight end. So who's the number one pass catcher there? It's Kelce. Because when they didn't have Kelce, it looked bad. So there's obviously a guy that gets the distribution and everyone else that follows behind that distribution. So again, is Kyle Pitts moving that needle? No. Is Drake London moving that needle? No. Are there reasons why they're not moving that needle? Yes, a plethora of them that I've already gone through over the last hour. But you're not going to make anything better if the system continues to be like, we're going to distribute things everywhere when the lead player on the team right now is Bijan Robinson. That's the truth. The lead player on this team is Bijan Robinson, and everybody else is looking like they got overdrafted. So you're telling me Kyle Pitts and Drake London potentially have been overdrafted? Yeah. Not that those players aren't good. Again, just I think we've overdrafted the offensive talent except for Bijan and maybe Bergeron. But otherwise, I think a lot of the talent that we put on this team, rookie-wise, draft-wise, are probably because we wanted other things in those drafts and we weren't able to get them. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get off of this, and then we will be live for PSF on Sunday. Please make sure you guys go check out the link in the description of this video. Download the PSF app on iOS and Android. Check us out in the Falcons group that we have going on in there. It's fun. It's fantastic. And we will be live for the 1 o'clock game tomorrow, and then we will be working on some videos for you guys. But rise up, stay grounded, and I will talk to you guys a little bit later. Peace. Hair Grease, thank you for all the donations, guys. I really appreciate it, and it's just helped my family so much. And we will be back on to do some more cool and crazy things. Talk to you guys later.